Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's a real pleasure to share this morning together, to welcome in this holiday of Shabbat together. It's always really fun for me to see, both in small groups and collectively, our community kind of hanging out with one another. It's wonderful to see all of us, and I believe that you can see a smile, even with a mask. And so it is wonderful to see your smiling faces, to be together this morning. Hello to our 7th grade class, and welcome to everyone who is joining us here in our sanctuary, and to everyone who is joining us online as well, on Facebook and on YouTube, as well as our live stream on tilb.org. And I mention that not just because it is a slightly higher quality live stream, but also as we get to the end of our service and we call for names of those we're thinking of that we're remembering, if anybody has a particular person that they are thinking of and they offer it in the chat on tilb.org, we'll be able to offer that name out loud. Welcome to our 7th grade as well as our 7th grade teachers, Mr. J. Al-Hadaf, which a birdie told me yesterday that you are celebrating a particular moment, I think a birthday around now. So a happy birthday to you as well. Oh, in a couple weeks. Okay. All right. Well, an early happy birthday to you. And of course, welcome to our Director of Education and Congregational Engagement, Sharon, who you're probably tired of hearing me say that your title is accurate and well named, and that your title, of course, in our community is always Sharon. With this, always with a huge smile. Well, I'm saying that you have a huge smile, and anytime anybody says, and our Sharon, as though that were a title instead of a name, that is who you are in our community. Anyway, welcome and Shabbat Shalom. And welcome as well to David York, who is here leading with us this morning, helping us bring in this holiday of Shabbat and leading prayers together as part of this team. And just a little bit of, as we begin, some housekeeping. So if anybody brought a cell phone, I know that none of us would bring a cell phone to services on a Saturday morning, but if you did happen to bring a cell phone, I just want to invite us to set it on silent, or I'm going to turn mine completely off so that we can have this morning without that particular distraction. A note about photographs as well, that we have a professional photographer here who is going to be taking photographs throughout the service, and we'll be taking photographs in such a way to preserve the sanctity of our service. There's no need for any of us to take photographs in addition. There will be a recording of our service as well. And anybody who would like or needs to, we have a life cycle room here as well. So if we have any little ones that have a need to voice their prayers, perhaps with different words than what we might be offering this morning, they are welcome to be in this space. And if you would prefer, they're welcome as well to be in our life cycle room where they can both see and hear and sing to their heart's delight. Another note as well, which is that Los Angeles County Health Guidelines and California Health Guidelines dictate that each of us wear a mask as we are inside, and that is inside wearing a mask at all times, including wearing the mask over our mouth and nose. But many of us, I imagine, may be looking at Cantor and myself and saying that we are not wearing masks. And it is because we have very recently taken COVID tests. Both have tested negative, but as an additional precaution, we are clearing the first 2 rows of our sanctuary this morning as well. A note as well that there is a pamphlet that has some of the honors, some of the different things that are going on this morning, as well as a little bit of a journey through our prayer book that was designed specifically because our community called for new prayers, new voices. And so I'd say about 15 years ago, something like that, our community, as a national community, piloted a number of different services and ways of entering into prayer, and these different prayer books were all compiled into one. This prayer book has a number of different features in it that I'd love to share with us so that we might all find our own way into prayer this morning. The first is that many of the prayers that we'll be offering can be found in the Hebrew on the right-hand side of the page, as well as the transliteration as well. Underneath each prayer is the English translation of those same words, and on the left-hand side are alternative readings. And still further underneath are commentary, different ways for us to find our way into prayer this morning. And so if our hearts wander in our service, I invite us to let our eyes wander around the page as well. If you have a meaningful practice of reading and singing along to the prayers this morning, I invite you to do so, to sing with us. And for some of us, that's going to be right. For others, it's going to be humming along to melodies old and new. And for others, it's going to be simply letting these prayers wash over us. For any and all of us, I invite us to let this service be what it is that we need it to be. So we begin our service this morning with the words of Ma Tovu, looking out to this community and saying, what a beautiful and sacred place is created from our voices and prayers together. We begin on page 74 of our prayer books. Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Va'ani berov chastecha, avo vetecha, eshtecha ve'el ha'chodshecha, ve'iratecha. Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu, Ma Tovu, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ohalecha Yaakov, Ma Tovu. This morning, too, we get to celebrate a young person as she takes her first steps as an adult in our community. And so it is with absolute joy that I call up Abby to continue our service and lead us in our service this morning. I'd like to call up as well Isaac to present her with her talit as she begins the memories of this sacred garment with this prayer service this morning. Come on up.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lahitatef b'tzitzit. I hereby accept the obligation of fulfilling these mitzvot as commanded in our Torah. I shall be holy, for I, your God, am holy. You shall not render an unjust decision. Leave something of what you possess to the poor. Do not hate your fellow human beings. Judge your neighbor fairly. Do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. Do not gossip or spread rumors. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Love your neighbors as yourself. I am Adonai, your God. We continue with the Baruch Hu on page 108. Please rise in body or in spirit. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Please join in the Hebrew on page 110. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher or uvarei oshech osei shalom uvarei et hakol hameir la'aretz v'ladarim alecha barachamim uvtuvo mekadesh b'chol yom tamid Maaseh Bereshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, mal'a haaretz kinyinecha. Titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha. All yor she'asita yafaruach selah. Or chadash al Zion tamir, v'nizkech ulanu ma'orah ru'ro. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer Hamarov. You are praised who rolls out the rough raw clay of the universe into delicate vessels of light, and from nothing at all we could perceive in a world that is turned old, a shimmering new creation right before our eyes. Made this moment just for us. How much of life reveals your presence, how much Torah unfolds from each new flower, from each new wave that breaks on the sea. You are praised who forms the clay that clothes our lives, the delicate vessels which contain our light. We continue with Ahava Rabbah on page 112. Ahava Rabbah of Tanu Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla Gedola Vitera Chamolta, Aleinu Ba'avor Avotenu Ve'imotenu, Shabbat Hu Valatandem Shecholke Chaim Kaim Techanenu Ulamdenu. Ha'ereneinu v'toratecha nedabek imeinu v'mitzvotecha v'heyachel avavenu v'yachava uyeva et shamecha v'lo nevo v'lo yigadeh v'lo yigashen ve'olam va'ed v'ha'ereneinu v'toratecha nedabek meinu mitzvotecha ve'yachel yavavenu ve'yachava uyeva et shamecha. We continue with the Shema on page 114. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Please be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levacha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu ha'dvarim ha'ele asher anoki metzavecha hayom al levanecha V'shivtecha v'reitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderek uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadeka v'yayu latotafot b'neinecha u'ktavtam al mazuzot beitecha uv'isharecha Leman tizkeru ve'asitem ve'kol mitvotai v'kem kidoshim Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etem me'eretz Mitzrayim lehiot lahem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Please join me on page 122 for the Mi Chamocha. Shashim Chugeulim Lashimcha Al Sefahayom Echad Kulam Hodu Shimchu Ve'ameru Adonai Imloch Leolam Va'ed Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai Mi Chamocha Nedar BaKodesh Mi Chamocha Yisrael kumei be'ezrat Yisrael ufdei chumei Yehuda v'Yisrael go'alenu zevaot shonai shevaot shemo kadosh Israel Baruch atah Adonai Go'al Yisrael. We continue with the Amidah on page 124. Please rise in body or in spirit. Adonai tzevatai tiftav ufia gitei latecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Torim, V'rokei Hakol, V'zoher Atzei Avot v'Imahot, V'mevigula Lifnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Ve'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekin Abraham, Ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, V'choyei Hakol atah, Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv Haruah, Umarid HaGeshem, Mechochel Haim V'Hesed, Mechochel Haim B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, U'Chayei Emunato, L'Chenei Avar, Michamocha Ba'Gevurot, U'Midam Re'elah, Melech Memid U'Mekayeh, U'Matmiya Yeshua, Emanetayot Hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, V'yehei Hakol. Let us continue with the Kedusha on page 130. Let us sanctify your name on earth, as it is sanctified in the heavens above, as it is written by your prophet. Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Tzevaot. God's presence fills this earth. Nadesh et shimcha ba'olam, keshem shema k'dashim, o tobi shmei marom, k'katuv el yad neviecha, v'racham hazeh eleh ve'amar, kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzevaot, ve'lo kol ha'aretz, levodo. Adir, Adirenu, Adonai, Adonenu, Ma'adir Shimcha b'chol ha'aretz, Imruch kevod Adonai, mimkomo. Echad hu Eloheinu, hu Avinu, hu Keinu, hu Moshmienu, v'hu Yashmienu, v'rachamad einei kol hai. Ahani Adonai Eloheihem, Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Please be seated.
You're doing great. We are gifts and we are blessings. We are history and song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. Lidor vador, nagid god lecha. Lidor vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Lidor vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our heart, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part. We are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way. And the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. Lidor vador, nagid god lecha. Lidor vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Lidor vador, these lips will praise your name.
We continue on page 132. Please join us in singing Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam v'nidolam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam v'nidolam. Beini uvdim b'ni Yisrael uti le'olam, uti le'olam, uti le'olam. Bishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam v'nidolam. Ishem shomimim asar Adonai, asar Adonai et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. Bishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam v'nidolam. Uvayom hashmit shasot v'inafash, asot v'inafash, avat v'inafash. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'dorotam v'nidolam. Please turn to page 137 for Ritzeh. Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu, ba'amcha Yisrael, utfelatam ba'ahava tikavel, uthe leratzon tamid, avodat Yisrael, amcha, Baruch atah Adonai, she'otcha levavcha v'racha na'avod. Grant us your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and then give us the will to share its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. Make contentment fall within our borders. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among the inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue in every soul. May the love of your name sanctify every home and every heart. Praise to you, Adonai, who blesses your people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, chamvarach et amo Yisrael bashalom.
Amen. Sim shalom tova uvracha chayim chen v'chesed v'rachamim. 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 Please continue silently with the words that are either in the Siddur or the words that are in your own heart, and we'll join together soon.
Well, as we prepare to continue our service with Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for taking out and reading from our sacred scriptures, I'd like to offer just a little bit of a note about how we're going to do this. So there is a practice of not just taking the words of our Torah and reading them out loud, but actually literally taking the Torah out and among the community. And so in just a little bit, Abby is going to actually carry the Torah through our sanctuary, and I promise that everyone is going to have a chance to be near the Torah, but because of the day and age that we are in, we are inviting us to do a slightly different practice. It is often the custom of our community to wish one another mazel tov and to give each other hugs in a moment such as this. And so I'm inviting us, because again of the time that we are in, given the pandemic, to simply offer that same love, that same mazel tov, but in a different way, perhaps by saying mazel tov, by very privately, just you and Abby saying that you're doing an amazing job and that was awesome, that the leading that you've done so far, but don't tell anyone else that, just Abby. And to say mazel tov, to say congratulations, but we are asking and inviting us to do that, of course, without hugging, so that we can maintain that distancing. For some of us, there is also going to be a custom of either taking our talit or a prayer book, or perhaps our hand, and placing it on the Torah. We, of course, invite us and are asking that we keep our masks on if we were to then kiss our hand after that, or the talit or the prayer book. Well, to take the Torah out and symbolically and literally pass this Torah and this tradition down the generations of Abby's family, I'd like to call up now her parents, Dan and Rachel, as well as Isaac, to pass the Torah down to Abby this morning. I'd like to invite Abby up as well. The rest of the congregation I'd like to invite to please rise in body or in spirit.
In kamocha v'Elohim Adonai ve'en k'ma'asecha malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai imloch le'olam vad Adonai oz le'amo yitain Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom Av harachamim hitiva versonecha et Zion Tivne chomot Yerushalayim Tivne chomot Yerushalayim Kivecha levad batachnu Melech eram v'nisa Adon olamim Ki mitzion teitzei Torah Ki mitzion teitzei Torah Udevar Adonai mirushalayim Baruch shenatan Torah Torah Baruch shenatan Torah Torah le'amo Yisrael bikdushato Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai echad Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai iti, ונרום במה שמו יחדיו. לך אדוני הגדול והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, כי כל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה והמנשא לכל ראש. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד.
Please be seated. Well, just a note, as Abby is finding her place in the Torah, this particular scroll comes to us from the Queen Mary. Rabbi Wally Kelter found this scroll and brought it to our community from the Queen Mary. It was used as members of our community would travel around the world, and still others of our community were actually making their home here in the United States. As the ship made its way to other countries around the world, and as people in our community were coming to find the United States as their home, they made a sanctuary, a mishkan that we read about in this week's Torah portion, a temporary holy space that was home anywhere they might have been traveling with this same Torah scroll. Traveling across the nations, making a new home anywhere they might be, and anticipating this space that we now share, and reminding each and every one of us that anytime we open up our sacred text, anytime we share a sacred and holy moment, we are building and creating a sacred home. And so, Abby, in your home, you will read these words for us. And we actually have different members of your circle and family who are going to do different aliyot to bless the different readings of the Torah. And a couple of our aliyot are going to be members of your family who are going to be joining us via Zoom, via tablet, as it were. And so for our first aliyah, Dan, come on up. For our first aliyah, we'd like to call up your Aunt Sue and Uncle Larry to the Torah for this very first aliyah. You can turn it.
נא לעמוד המשפחה לעלייה התורה.
Oh, are you guys ready?
Okay.
All right. You might need to mute the live stream. We can hear you. Yes. Fire away.
Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay. Okay.
Want to do it?
Baruch
Adonai habarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, natan banu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Vayadaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el bnei Yisrael, veikuli teruma me'et kol ish asher yidabenu libo, tichu et terumati, vezot hateruma asher tichu me'itam zahav v'chesef unchoshet.
We continue now with the English translation of that very same reading.
The Eternal One spoke to Moses, saying, "Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart is so moved. And these are the gifts you shall accept from them: gold, silver, copper, and copper."
We now continue with the blessing after that same Torah reading.
I gotta unmute them. Hopefully they'll unmute.
Okay.
Okay.
Take a moment.
Aunt Susan, Uncle Larry, I think
You ready?
you ready for the after blessing? Go for it. Gotta do the blessing now, the after blessing. Oh, I'm muted. You know you gotta do the after blessing. That's my bad. You ready?
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'zufenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen. Mazel tov to each of you. Mazel tov and congratulations.
Thank you. I think I'll bring
Thank you.
For our second aliyah, we call up Abby's brother Isaac.
Nala Amod, Yitzchak ben David, Aliyah HaTorah.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai habarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Utechelet v'gaman v'tolat shani v'shesh v'ezim v'orot elim me'odamim v'orot techashim v'atzei shitim shemen lamaor besamim l'shemen chamisha Veliktoret asamim. Blue, purple, and crimson yarns, fine linen, goat's hair, tan ram skins, dolphin skins, and acacia wood. Oil for lighting, spices for the anointing oil, for the aromatic incense.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam natan betochenu. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For our next aliyah, we call up Abby's grandparents, Ed and Laurel Kelson. We call them up via Zoom as well.
Nala Amod, Ezra ben Benyamin, Velea bat Avraham, Lalia HaTorah.
Where are the in twice? Oh, good, they joined twice and don't have sound. Oh, I hear something, but that could be my aunt.
Abby, can you see them?
Do you have a microphone, folks?
Yeah, I hope so.
Perfect.
Okay.
Go for it.
Whenever you're ready.
Baruch Hu Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Abby's grandparents, Ed and Laurel Kelson. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Voed. Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Ato Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Avnei Shoham ve'avnei miluim la'efod ve'lachoshen ve'asuli mikdash ve'shachanti betocham kecho mar'ev asher ani mar'ev otcha et tavnit chamichan Ve'et tavnit kol kelav ve'chein tasu. Lapis lazuli and other stones for setting for the ephod and for the breastpiece, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. Exactly as I show you the pattern of the tabernacle and the pattern of all its furnishings, so shall you make it. Ve'asu.
Wait, just, we got more blessings. Ready to go. Okay, you guys ready to do the after blessing?
Okay.
Go for it.
Baruch Ato Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emes V'chayei Olam Nota B'Sokenu. Baruch Ato Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Mazel tov to the both of you.
That was great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Now I can end the meeting.
You can end it.
I love that.
And now you can go stand over the
Stay here as well. For our next aliyah, we call up Abby's very proud parents, Dan and Rachel Kelson.
Nala Amod, David ben Ezra, Ve'rivka bat Sarah imenu Lalia HaTorah.
We ready?
Whenever you're ready.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Olam Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Hamim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vayhi Ve'asu Aaron Ve'asu
I'm sorry.
Aaron Atzei Shitim Amatayim V'chezi Orko Ve'ama V'chezi Rochbo Ve'ama V'chezi Komato Vetzibita Oto Zahav Tahor Mi Bait Umichutz Tatzapenu Ve'asita Alav Zer Zahav Saviv Ve'atzakta Lo Arbach Tabot Zahav Ve'natata Arbach Pa'amotav Ushte Tabaot Altzalo Ha'echad Ushte Tabaot Altzalo Ha'shenit. They shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits long, 1.5 cubits wide, and 1.5 cubits high. Overlay it with pure gold. Overlay the inside and out, and make upon it a gold melding round about. Cast 4 gold rings in it to be attached to its 4 feet, 2 rings on one of its sides. 2 rings on one of its sides, walls, and 2 on the other. Ve'asita. Oh yeah.
Wait for us. Get in a hurry. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For our 5th and final aliyah, we have the privilege of calling up Abby herself to the Torah. By nature of taking on this aliyah, she takes her place in our community as a bat mitzvah.
Nala amod, nala amod, nala amod, habat mitzvah. Abigail bat David ve'Rivka, laliyah haTorah.
Baruch et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Ve'asita fadei atzei shitim v'tzipita otam zahav ve'heveta et habadim batabaot ot ha'aron leseit et ha'aron bahem batabaot ha'aron yihyehu habadim Lo yasuru mimenu v'natata el haron et tavnit chamishat tavnidut esher etein elecha. The poles shall make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. Then insert the poles into the rings on the side walls of the ark for carrying the ark. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark. They shall not be removed from it. And deposit in the ark the tablets of the pact, which I will give you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. We now continue with the lifting and dressing of the Torah, and for that honor we call up Isaac, Abby's brother. For the rest of the congregation, I'd like to invite all of us to please rise in body or in spirit.
V'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe, v'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe, lifnei b'nei Yisrael, lifnei b'nei Yisrael. V'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah. Al Pi Adonai beyad Moshe. Lai la la lai 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 la la lai 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 yai lai la lai yai lai la lai yai lai la lai 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 yai la la lai 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 yai lai 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 yai la la lai 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 yai lai 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 yai lai la lai lai
Eitz Chaim hi lebrach azikim ba v'tom cheha me'ushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadish, Chadish Yameinu Chadish Yameinu
Please be seated. Well, just as we ask our young people to take the words of our Torah and bring them to life for us, so too do we ask them to read from the rest of our sacred scriptures as well. And so Abby is going to be reading this morning from 1 Kings, her Haftorah this morning.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'dibreihem hane'emarim b'emet Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'Torah u'Moshe avdo u'Yisrael amo u'nvi'ei ha'emet b'tzedek. Vayehi devar Adonai el Shlomo lemor habayit hazeh asher ata boneh im telech bechukotai im mishpotai taseh v'shamatai et kol mitzvotai lalechet bahem v'chakimoti et devari itach asher dibarti el David avicha v'shachanti betoch bnei Israel velo ezov et ami Israel. Then the word of the Eternal One came to Solomon. Concerning this temple that you have been building, I tell you this. If you obey my statutes and carry out my rules of justice and take care to keep all my commandments, I will fulfill my promise, the one I made to your father David, and I will dwell among the people of Israel and never forsake my people Israel. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzur kol halamim tzedek b'chol hadarot ha'el ha'ne'eman haboher ve'osher ha'medaber u'mkayem shekol devara emet v'tzedek all ha'torah v'all ha'avodah v'all ha'mvi'im v'yal yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu v'nakshav limnucha lachavod u'tifaret al ha'okol Adonai Eloheinu, anachnu modim la, umecharim ota, tibarak shimcha v'vikotai, imin le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, nekadesh ha-Shabbat.
Yasher Koach. There is really one and only one thing to say. I guess there's two things. You could say Yasher Koach or you could say Mazel Tov, but after reading so well, Abby, well done. So I want to invite us all on the count of three to say Mazel Tov. 1, 2, 3, Mazel Tov. Well done. Well, so we are in for a real treat this morning, not just getting to celebrate with Abby, not just getting to hear the ancient words brought to life in such a way, but we get to hear Abby's thoughts this morning as well. A really excellent, brilliant reading of our Torah portion. And so I turn it to Abby now to share with us not just the literal meaning of these words, but how they might live in each and every one of our hearts.
I want to thank all of you for taking part in my bat mitzvah by being here or watching online. It means a lot to have you with me today. This week's parsha is Truma, the section of Exodus in which God gives Moses instructions for how he and the Israelites are going to build the tabernacle. The tabernacle, also called the Mishkan, is the portable structure that will hold the Ark of the Covenant, and they will carry with them for the rest of their journey. My specific section, Exodus 25, verses 1 through 16, includes God's very first mention of the Mishkan, his list of all the necessary building materials, and a general description of the Ark. When the parsha begins, all the Jews who have escaped from Egypt are there, together in the wilderness. They have already joined the covenant with God at Sinai. Now God is talking to Moses, and he tells Moses to have the Israelites bring him gifts. He says, "You shall accept gifts from me from everyone whose heart is so moved." Why does God need them to give all of these gifts? If God is all-powerful, then can't God just make what God wants? Didn't God already have to make everything at the beginning? Can't he gather everything together himself? But by having people give up something valuable to themselves, they get to feel like they're a part of something, and they get to feel like the Mishkan is actually theirs. In this way, God gave a template for all the generations to come. Just as art is only art if you're improving on a template, the Mishkan is something for everybody to contribute to improve and make theirs. The phrase "whose heart is so moved" is particularly interesting in that no one is forced to participate. You don't have to donate or give something up if you don't feel this is what you want to do. There is nothing said about how many people were not moved enough to give. Maybe that means that they weren't in trouble for making that choice, and that it was okay to remain unsure about donating for the supplies for the Mishkan. What that tells me is Judaism has space for and values people who have questions and doubts. In verse 8, God explains why he needs all the gifts, and let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell among them. That is ironic, because only 2 weeks ago in Parshat Yishro, the Israelites met God for the first time at Mount Sinai and decided once was definitely enough. "You speak to us," they said to Moses, "and we will obey. But let not God speak to us, lest we die." And now we have God asking for room to come live with them. So maybe God's not such a good listener. It's funny to imagine the people are not all that excited that God has come to and decided to come and dwell among them in a tiny guest suite. But perhaps this was the safest way to have God come along and protect them, but in a way where they don't have to see God up close and personal. They're defenseless in the desert, and they need God with them, even though he's terrifying and hard to be around. Just like community is hard, but we need it, because without it, we'd be sad and lonely people. Finally, God explains that the ark that must carry the tablets of the pact, the 10 Commandments, must be made with 4 rings, 2 on either side. Poles need to slide into each pair of rings. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark. They shall not be removed from it. God doesn't spell it out, but the purpose is clear. By keeping the poles in the rings of the ark, the people know they will always be ready to go at a moment's notice. It shows that God knows what the Israelites have been through and that there's going to be more danger. But now the Israelites know that danger is coming as well. I think my Torah portion is about community and how everyone is important and belongs. The tabernacle is the first Jewish community center. Whose heart is so moved tells us that Jewish communities should be inclusive and welcome to everyone. Jewish communities should be places where it's okay to ask questions and have doubts. that I may dwell among them reminds us that Jewish communities, just like every other kind of community, can be very challenging, but they're necessary. The poles that are always ready for travel are not just about needing to run from danger. They remind us that Jews can go anywhere and be anywhere. We are not tied to a place. I think that the Mishkan was just a meeting place where everyone did their part to keep things running smoothly, to keep it from falling apart, and most importantly, to build a community. Every Jew was part of its care. We never needed a temple. All we ever needed was a community and a God box, if we even needed that. No matter what happens, as long as we have a community, Judaism can go anywhere and survive. I would like to thank a few people. My brother is up first. He's always been there for me. Isaac, you're a very funny brother. Just please, I don't need to see your math notebook, every time I complain about the math I'm learning. Mom, Dad, I love you. You've been very supportive of me, and I'm very lucky to have you as my parents. Thank you to Mr. J for always being a friend and looking out for me. Ryan, thank you. You're with me through thick and thin. Does thick be mad and thin be good in that case? Anyway, just thank you. Thank you to all my friends at Marshall. I'm sorry you had to put up with me. I promise I'll stop practicing my prayers by singing them while you eat. Maybe. Maybe. Thank you, Haley, for teaching my half-Torah blessings and being a very, very good friend. Turn the page. Thank you to all my Torah Center classmates and my Torah Center teachers who have taught me so much. I want to thank Rabbi Fox for being so encouraging and Cantor Cooper for all the time she has spent getting me ready for today. Finally, I would like to thank everyone again for being here or watching online and celebrating with me. There's no more. Nothing. I'm going to turn this back and
Well done.
back because it's going to be...
You can take a breath. So you have shared so much with us, Abby, given us great gifts this morning, and so I want to invite up a member of our board of directors, Karen Ben Shmuel, to offer some gifts to you as well this morning as we celebrate this day. Abby, well done.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Abby, you told me you were nervous, but oh my gosh, you knocked it out of the park today. You were so confident and clear, and I can really tell how much this means to you, which is really cool to see you dancing up here to the prayers, and you were fantastic. Really, really great. You are so intelligent and engaging and interesting and really fun to talk to. When we spoke the other day, I was really impressed by your commitment and your passion to two things in particular. First of all, to helping the community, which I think was illustrated in your Haftorah today and your Dvar Torah. You talked about your Mitzvah project and helping those in need, and you told a lot of cool stories about your family delivering and serving meals to people, and I really liked hearing about that. You're also really committed to continuing your education as a now Jewish adult. You wanted to help out in our Torah Center, specifically with the little tiny ones, and you really wanted to continue your education, so that was really wonderful to hear. I'm so happy for you. Mazel tov to your family, and I know how important Judaism is to all of you, and you really did fantastic today. On behalf of the board of directors, I have some gifts for you. Well, we have some gifts for you. From the sisterhood and from the men's group, we have a Kiddush cup and some candlesticks so you and your family can continue to celebrate Shabbat together in the home. We also have from the temple the Tanakh translation, the Jewish Bible. And then also from the Union for Reform Judaism, we have a $250 gift certificate for summer or semester travel Israel program. I hope you get to use that one day, hopefully sometime soon. So Mazel Tov, Abby, you are fantastic. Mazel Tov to your family, and great job. I'll give you a hug. Thank you.
Abby, I promised you that I would tell you what my blessing for you earlier was all about. And I will in a moment, but I actually have two totally different things that I want to share with you. So the first is very closely tied to your Torah portion. Now, I love that this Torah portion is your Torah portion. Because if you were to look at any number of the pages, even in your Torah book today as we were reading, there was a picture in the Torah book that you had drawn. But anytime you're kind of hanging out, there's doodles and beautiful images, beautiful drawings that you are building. I want to tell you a story that comes from the Midrash about our Torah portion this week. And it goes like this. We know that the entire Torah portion is all about this description of the tabernacle, right? But the rabbis look at the descriptions and they say, it's a little difficult to follow, right? I mean, there's different elements that you picked up on and brought such powerful readings of. And at the same time, I don't know if you ever actually thought of sitting down and drawing specifically what was described. It would be really tough. Scholars and commentators throughout the generations have also tried to figure out how would you actually put this thing together, right? If you were to use it as an instruction manual from IKEA, Allen wrench or none, how would you put this thing together, right? And they imagined this story from the Midrash. Moses goes up to Mount Sinai, and God shows Moses the tabernacle. And Moses is amazed and overwhelmed at how powerful and beautiful this tabernacle is, right? And he comes down the mountain, and he's trying to remember every last detail, and he's writing down every last detail, and he gets to the bottom of the mountain, and he just can't remember. So he goes back up to the top of the mountain and asks God to see the tabernacle again. And God says, okay, here's the tabernacle again. Here is the Mishkan again, one more time, and shows Moses the entire space. Moses again is deeply inspired and comes back down to the Israelites and draws and writes out all the different details of that particular tabernacle. And they start to build it, and they can't. The details don't quite fit together. Just like we read today, there's all of these incredible things that are described in it, but they don't always totally fit together until Bezalel comes along. And Moses brings Bezalel in and says, here are the instructions. How do you see it? And rather than trying to completely recreate what Moses had given him, he imagined what this space would be in his own vision. And that is the tabernacle that we have, according to the rabbis. Now, Abby, you have a strong vision and understanding of what Judaism means to you. And you have incredible role models in your family, each and every one who has Judaism in their hearts. And I know that they have been to the top of the mountain and they have come down and they have said, Abby, look, this is incredible. And that you've looked at those blueprints and you've drawn it in your own way, your own image. Abby, my blessing for you, my hope for you, is be that Bezalel. Keep drawing. Literally, drawings are awesome. And metaphorically, draw this Judaism in the way that you understand. Because that bright mind and that creative soul of yours, well, it's going to create holy and sacred space for all of us. Now, here's my second blessing. I told you I promised I'd tell you about the reason why I offered that one particular blessing. I know that you're nervous about today. And you were very poised up here, by the way, but I know that kind of inside there was a lot of kind of this and, that kind of nervousness. And I actually don't think that nervousness came from the Hebrew or practicing, even though that's awesome. I'm picturing you at Marshall, practicing at during lunchtime your blessings. I think that nervousness actually comes from knowing that everyone here loves and cares about you. And I know that it sounds a little kind of weird when I put it that way, right? But I think that you have a whole community of friends and family that have such tremendous love for you that, like you taught us earlier, just like the Israelites who said, that's too much, speak through a conduit. It's so much that we're not able to even hold on to all of that. That you also know that there is that much love for you. And there can't be all of the time, the focus on that kind of love and care. But Abby, today, I want to invite you to open your heart to that. To let everyone here say that they love and care about you. Let this be your day. Mazel tov. Congratulations, Abby. Well, we have more blessings for you. So I want to call up your parents, Dan and Rachel, to offer their words of blessing this morning. Abby, mazel tov. Is it okay if you offer the blessing here? We'll get you up on the beam. Yeah. Do you want to do the blessing on the beam? Actually, I'm realizing if you want, you can. Abby, the blessing on the beam is in a little bit. Blessing. Yeah, we're starting here. Right over here, Abby. Please, your parents.
All right. I have a little speech, if I could.
Absolutely, please. Yeah.
Thought I'd frighten everybody.
Oh my God.
Don't worry, it's only in 6 point. I even need my glasses. I'm not going to read all of it. I just wrote down a bunch of things that make no
He's
sense.
gonna
I'm really
skip
gonna skip half of this, but it's because I also can never remember anything. There's actually one thing I have to do first. Okay.
You actually wrote a speech.
Yeah, I did. But there's something I have to say first. We're here because of one person. We're here today because of one person, and it's not you. It's not me. It's not Alan, although he's close second. It's this one, Rachel. We're really here because of her. And I just want to acknowledge that, because 110 and a half months ago, there was a particularly bad day. And I, in my stubbornness, just assumed the kids would learn, how to fetch and do all the things we're supposed to do just by being around me, because, I'm good at teaching that. But really, Rachel recognized that there's more to this than pogroms and hurry, hurry, we have to go, don't take that, it's too heavy, we just need to run, that kind of thing. There's more to it than that. This is fun. This is, as you pointed out, Abby, community. This is like, we need each other. And we really only have this because of this one. So I'm just going to say thank you. And I know I'm supposed to talk about Abby, but just thank you, because it's been great. I should probably say more, but I'm going to go back to Abby now, okay? Because she's the one who matters more today. Not till tomorrow, but today. Okay, so, God, you did amazing today. You did, we knew you'd be amazing, but I want you to feel inside here that you have truly earned a statue almost as large as the one you were going to build for me. Now, that might not mean a lot to you, because when she was, as Rachel pointed out, like when Abby was born, I don't know if you've heard Rachel say this, when Abby was born, Rachel turned to me and said, she's going to be funny. She's the funny one. Now, when Abby was about 7 or 8, we were right by elementary school. We were at the car. And Abby turned to me and she said, Daddy, would you like a statue built in your honor? So cute. But there's trouble coming, and you just got to go with it, right? Yes. Good, because it'll be this big. Okay, so you've earned one a little bit bigger today, and I want you to get that, okay? And when we get home, we have plenty of clay. We can make it. It'll be really cool. Okay. Now, I have way too many words here I've strayed from, but a lot of what I was thinking about when I put this together was really stuff I had been wanting to say to you 2 years ago. But many years early in your life, there was just things weren't easy. Big brother, nervous parents, a lot going on, a lot of drama, not always easy for you. And slowly you figured out how to carve out some space for yourself and learn to ask for the things that you need. And so 2 years ago, I would have said, oh, well, I need you to remember to ask for these things. But I see, as you've gotten over the last 6 months, 2 years, like you are so good at not just hiding in the other room when things are scary, but saying to us, here's what I need. Dad, you need to stop being so loud. It's overwhelming or scary, whatever. But like, I'm so impressed. So I have pages here about telling you, don't forget to just keep asking all of us for what you need. You're already so good at it. So that's the thing I'm so proud of. More than anything else, forget your math. Even your art is amazing, but really the thing I'm most proud of is that you have really learned to just come into a room and gently demand the things that you need and ask for the things for yourself. And I'm just so proud of that. Love you.
Love you.
Yeah, I know.
Are you serious?
Yes, I am.
Yay.
So you had this wonderful drash, and a lot of people notice in your parsha the bit about the poles that always have to be in the rings, and it's never said why, but everybody notices, even then the Jews had to be ready to run at a moment's notice, and it's always a funny moment, and you wouldn't be your father's daughter if you didn't notice that bit, if you didn't make a joke about always having to be ready to run. But I love it that you said, I think it also means that it's also important to just go out in the world and just go. I think that means we're supposed to be travelers, and I love that. And you are here because you have a handful of great-great-grandparents who traveled from places that, depending on what year it was, would have been called Poland or Ukraine or Russia or Belarus, and they got here, and thank God they did, because the people that they left behind didn't make it, and they got here. And you're also here because your great-great-grandfather on my side of the family left Prussia, or probably at that point Germany.
Ooh, it was close.
And came here just because he wanted to be a minister. And he knew that if he stayed in Germany, he was too lower class to go to seminary. And so he came here to go to seminary. And thank God he did. Because if he hadn't, then my grandfather would have been in Germany in the 30s and the 40s. And that would have been a horrific thing. So he was here for that. And you get the Jewishness from your dad's side of the family. But it is not lost on me, who comes from a devout Lutheran family with something like a dozen Lutheran ministers in my family, that's also why you're here, and why, as Dad said, I dragged all of you here. And I want you to know that this will always be here for you. And if there's one thing that Judaism does, is it makes the world a little smaller and a little more manageable for you. And wherever you go, however you feel about the world, whatever you feel about God, if such a thing exists or not, if the world ever gets to feel too big, you can always make the world smaller by being someplace like this. If college is overwhelming, there will always be a Hillel filled with obnoxious, funny kids. You know, if you go to your first job and the city feels monstrous and you feel alone, you can always make it smaller. You can find some synagogue full of atheists. I swear to God, they exist. Like, you can. This is just a way to make the world smaller and find a smaller group of people. I know you want me to stop. This is she's ending it. She's ending it. This is her forcing the end of the speech. You told me you wanted me to talk, but I swear that's all this is. Okay, it's always here for you. Okay, I love you. Proud of you. I love you. Okay. Mwah. You did a great job.
Yeah, they've been smushed. That's why you've got two pairs.
Love you. I love you.
What do we do now?
Stay up here. We're going to go.
Okay.
Well, Abby, we now have the opportunity to offer some traditional words of blessing for you in front of the bima, in front of the ark. So, Abby, there are words that come to us all the way from the book of Genesis. And for generations and generations, members of our community have offered these words at sacred moments such as this. This morning, these words are yours.
Yevarechecha l'Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's face be turned toward you in graciousness.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God always watch over you, and may you be blessed with that greatest of gifts, that gift of peace. I invite us together to say, Amen. Well, as we celebrate this moment, as we come to this place in our lives, we offer these sacred words of Shehechianu. I'd like to invite everyone to sing along with us. Isaac, come on up.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
We continue our service this morning with the words of Aleinu on page 282 of our prayer books, page 282. I'd like to invite us to please rise in body or in spirit.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula le'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. V'anachnu korim u'mishtachavim u'modim lifnei melech malchei hamlachim
Please be seated. Well, our thoughts now turn to those in our community who have died in recent days or in this season in years past. And if you are joining us online on tiob.org, I'd like to invite you to share the names of those that you are thinking of now in the online chat. Together, Abby and her family are especially calling to mind this morning Ben and Esther Kelson. Additionally, our hearts go out to those who are in a period of Shiva and Shloshim, observing the 7 and 30 days after the death of someone near to them. And so as we remember Ruth Yavitz, we think of Gerald Yavitz and Sandra Yavitz, Michael and Judy Yavitz, and Jonathan, Jacqueline, Talon, and Mila. And as we remember Kurt Charipper, we think of Nina Wool. And as we remember Doreen Kisner, we think of Joel Kisner and Ronna Kisner. And as we think and remember Glenn Butler, we think of Jay Iser. And as we remember Harlan Priceman, we think of Heather Raphael. As we remember Sandy Thorpe, we think of Suzanne Cameron and Janice Wood. And as we remember Theodore Walter, we think of Kathy Busey. And as we remember Cy Albin, we think of Reva Albin and Bob and Ginny Albin, and Jerry Landis, and Jill and Joseph, John and Julie. This Shabbat, we additionally think of Evelyn Friedman, beloved mother of Stuart Friedman, mother-in-law of Lauren Friedman, and grandmother of Aaron, Jacob, and Nathan, who died this past Wednesday. We additionally mark the yard site, the anniversary of the death of Lena Bear, Harriet Bell, Mazel Tov Barrow, Maurice Chodosh, Audrey Cohen, Cheryl Iser, Helen Pfeiffer, Saul Green, Wayne Hammer, Mary Kagia, Annette Kaiser, John Kerr, Richard Leff, Eugene Lensner, Nancy Locks, Kathy Meltzer, Louis Mosenson, Rima Robb, Rose Reed, Brenda Schoenbrunn, Toby Sharzer, Thelma Shevik, Zelda Stotland, and James Welber. If there is anyone that you are thinking of, you'd like to share their name aloud so that we might all hold that person in our hearts, I invite you to do so as my eyes meet yours. I'd now like to invite all of us to rise together in love and in solidarity. So we offer these words of mourning on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, v'yamad yivarach yirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael. B'agala v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevorach leolam ol meil maya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. Yitadar v'yitalal Shemei dekudusha barichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen.
Yehi Shlama Rabba Min Shemaya. V'chaim Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. Osei Shalom Bimramav. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom. Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael. V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel. V'imru Amen. Zichronam Livracha. May the memories of those near to us always be a source of blessing. I invite us together to say Amen. We have a Nechemta, a little bit of sweetness placed right there at the bottom of our prayer, reminding us that it is important that we remember and step into loss, but always place an invitation and a way out of it as well. And so we have at the very end of our prayer here an invitation, a reminder of the peace that is in this world, that can be in this world. And so we sing together the words, Osei Shalom.
Osei Shalom bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael, ve'imru Amen. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh Shalom, Ya'aseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael. Osei Shalom bimromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al Kol Yisrael. Ve'imru Amen. Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat Shalom, hey, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat Shalom.
You gotta do some blessings here. You're not done yet. This is the hardest part.
Hardest part, Abby. You can take your basket.
Okay. I'll put that down.
So just as we have rituals to learn, rituals to inspire, we have a ritual that reflects the sweetness that we all feel in this moment, placed right there in the cup. And so I invite us to bless this wine. Yes, it is wine. We say it's a good month. As we bless this day and reflect and express the feeling that we are all feeling in this moment, the sweetness and joy as well. Well, let's offer this blessing together. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen
L'chaim.
And I'm not drinking this.
Someone has to
His
drink it.
family. Yeah. There you go.
L'chaim.
L'chaim, l'chaim. And we have a blessing that says, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, bread that rises from the earth. We know full well that bread does not rise from the earth, but rather a whole chain of work goes into making this bread and bringing it to our celebration today. So too is there a village that brings a celebration such as this. It is both that we bless this morning. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam,
Hamotzi lechem min haaretz,
B'tei avon. Shabbat shalom and mazel tov, everyone. Shabbat shalom. Mazel tov.
Mazel tov.
We want to thank everybody for really being here today. In principle, I don't know if they're out yet, but we'll be getting them out shortly, so don't disappear too quickly. But we have cupcakes so people can enjoy
The
some more
party is
sweetness.
being postponed until when?
Oh, yes, and then for those of you who never got my email about the party that was originally supposed to be tonight, thanks to COVID, we have postponed it. Again, that was said over email, but if you missed it, now you heard it. And it will be coming in early April, and you will get follow-up emails for all of that. Thank you for your patience, and please stay healthy. Thank you. Now we can go hug people.
Yes.
Hey, we should just make sure the cupcakes get out.
Kiki should be able to do it. You guys just enjoy it.
Kiki's cute.
Kiki's what?
Kiki's cute.
I know, right?
She's like,
She's amazing.
here.
We did.
How would we do it without you?
It was a pleasure. She was a joy. I'm going to miss our time together. We have to make other time.
Well, we're not going anywhere.
I know.
We're still here.
I know. I know. It's just always fun when it. Well, we'll have a celebration for you.
Yeah.
And if she wants to have a treat next year,
Oh, she wants to.
we're going to get her.
Absolutely. She wants to.
Good.
She wants to.
All right, I got to get home because we got family coming over. for
Okay, well,
lunch.
make sure you grab some cupcakes
With cupcakes?
outside
I
from
never say no.
Frosted.
I never say no to cupcakes.
Then I try to get out of the way.
Yeah, yeah.
But good to hear what other people, what it looks like to them. Hello, Shabbat Shalom.
We had our
I don't like this.
in a million years meeting, but we're gonna get
I just think it's ugly. I mean, when it's particularly when there's nothing on it, it's just, I think it looks weird. So where should we put the thing? Well, we used to always just put it under here. Oh, we just folded it, put it right here, and then brought it right back out. We also didn't used to put the Torah on there until